So, welcome to another episode of the Halo Effect podcast. And I'm so excited to introduce to you Julia de Jong. And we were just trying to figure out, just moments before, who the heck connected with who and where we met from. And we think it might have been from Wealth Mastery, which is a Tony Robbins event. And beautiful Julia also likes to be known as Jules. And she's around 30 years old or 30 years young, if you can see her on this video, if you're watching the replay on YouTube. And she's a holistic health coach who's new to the coaching realm, initially going into the role to work with stressed out teachers. Most of the clients that she's worked with before, they've kind of come through a similar story, which I think when we find our passion and where we move through in life, we attract the people that we're meant to at the right time. So it's in areas of life which cover relationships, health, money, mindset, supporting others going through mental health or dealing with mental health struggles in their family. And she's just finding her own way of how she can best support them, especially through things like goal setting. So I'm super curious to see how our conversation evolves throughout this chat, because like I said, we've connected on social media and we already feel like we know each other, but I also feel like there's a huge story behind why Jules does what she does and her path to leading there. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Jules and get her to speak for herself as to, anything else she wants to bring into her introduction. But basically, I love to know, how did you end up here, and what really was the catalyst for you doing all of the beautiful work that you do, Jules?
Hey, thanks, Lauren. Thanks for having me on. So I first came into the coaching realm probably about 18 months to 2 years ago, where I had gone through, if we backtrack it a little bit, I went through a bit of a health journey, and through going through that health journey, I discovered personal development. And from personal development, I ended up meeting a number of different coaches and working with a number of different coaches. And it was sort of middle of last year that a couple of the coaches had said to me, had I ever thought about doing coaching myself? And I never really saw myself as a coach, because my whole career has been teaching in early childhood, and I ended up realizing that actually I do coaching quite naturally anyway in my job with mentoring and supporting stressed out teachers. And so that just kind of came about. And so I sort of dipped my toe in the water and made the decision that that's where I wanted to pivot, and have been working towards that for the last sort of nearly a year now. So that's sort
Did
of
it feel like a natural progression to go into that, or did it feel also weird to define it as a role when you'd been doing it for so long? Like, oh, I thought I just naturally did it, but there's kind of a framework behind ways that I can maybe help more teachers or have a more niched market that's separate from the early childhood stuff.
So I didn't realize at first that I actually did it quite naturally. And then when it was having those conversations around what is your niche, and worked with a couple of coaches around that, it became more natural and more, okay, I can reach more people. Like, my time as a teacher sort of feels like it's coming to an end, especially going into the next chapter of my life, which is motherhood. It just made me realize that I can do so much more for other people on a one-on-one basis, as opposed to where I'm currently at the moment.
Absolutely. And like with childhood and all of that teaching side of stuff, is that something that was that you kind of landed a job in, and it was like a dream job for you, or it's something that you'd like really work towards? Or was it more like I just ended up in this job and I don't know why I'm still here?
No, so I'd always wanted to be a teacher. I'd never seen myself doing anything else. And ever since I was little, I'd always thought that I'd do primary school, but ended up falling into early childhood. And then I left school at 16, had done my diploma and then my bachelor, and graduated by the time I was 21 with both of those, and then just worked my way around private, community-based, up to management and everywhere in between.
Wow. Yeah, it's so nice to have had that clarity from, I guess, from the get-go, and to really have followed that through, because I'm sure that you're seeing as well in your coaching transition how important all of that background foundational work is, in terms of like understanding the systems, and I guess where stress teachers or stress parents are coming from. Like, you speak their language, you understand their worlds, and that's how I'm sure it's very natural for the progression of people just finding you, and it's like, oh, where have all of these people come from? But it's not until someone like you steps up and takes it to the next level that you can actually guide them to that next place, instead of just, I guess, circulating in the chaos. Because I remember, when you're a kid, you just think school, but I feel like now I look at things so from an observatory point of view, and I just think school, I'm not really sure of how the system actually works, and if it's like what your viewpoint on the schooling system is, and whether you're more like pro homeschool or certain schools there in New Zealand. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, for sure. So I was always coming from the space of that we have something called I don't know if you have it in Australia, but we have something called chartered schools. That's becoming quite a big thing over here. It's quite American. It's very there's a lot. It's a different point of view. It's a different way of teaching and that sort of thing. And as I learnt early on, every child learns differently. And in New Zealand, we have a early childhood curriculum called Te Whāriki, and we know that children learn holistically. And as we know, like, everyone learns differently, whether it's kinesthetic, whether it's visual, whether it's by doing, whether it's theory. There's all these different aspects. And as I've grown as a teacher, and as I've gone through the teaching career, I've noticed more and more the different styles. And for me, it was like, now that I'm having my own child, it's made me really open my eyes up to different opportunities and different possibilities of ways of allowing them to be and express themselves, and not necessarily go down that traditional schooling path that we were all like conditioned to go through growing up.
Yeah, for some reason I always thought you when we spoke, you already sounded so much like a mum, and I'm like, doesn't she has like 10 kids or something? And then I don't know where I got this number in my head, and then you're telling me like, oh, I'm just pregnant with my first. And I love that you've got this really natural maternal energy that that would transfer across in your teaching. I'm sure kids would be like, you probably like a second or a third mum to a lot of them. But I also just wanted yeah, what's that?
I was just going to say, I always joke when people say, how many kids do you have? And I'll say, oh, I've got like 25 kids, depending on how many I'm teaching.
Maybe that's where, I don't know what happened, but I honestly just had this number in my head. I'm like, no, she's got 10 kids, and maybe they're adopted. I'm not sure. Just add it into her bio. No.
Yeah.
But a huge congratulations to getting pregnant, girl, because I know that something that you've shared in a part of your story that you haven't actually shared on here, and you can go into this or you don't have to, but yeah, I noticed that it was like an IVF process for you, and that it, like, your body wasn't in a place of being able to kind of do that. And I would love to hear more of whether that was related to your health journey, or whether there's been like ongoing problems in like the wound space or anything, and just how the process of actually having a baby in your belly feels now. It must be such a gift.
It totally is. I'm an open book when it comes to my fertility journey. So this has been going back probably 8 to 10 years. And I'd gone overseas, gone traveling, came back, decided to go off the pill, told my partner, we'd been together for about 5 or 6 years at that point.
Yeah.
And then we tried for a couple of years, and then things were just not happening. So then we decided to go and get some checks done. And cut a long story short, because it is quite a long story, and I do have a private Facebook group if anyone wants to find out more about that side, just around that journey. We basically got told the wrong information, and basically for a couple of years there, and what we found out was that we had unexplained infertility. So in a nutshell, nothing was wrong physically on my side and nothing was wrong on my partner's side, but basically we just weren't gelling. And then part of going into all the personal development stuff, I kind of felt like that was part of the healing process to be able to get ready to go through the IVF last year. And there was a lot of work that was done from a mental, emotional, spiritual point of view, as well as physical with my health journey. So 4 years ago, I lost 15 kilos. I didn't realize I had that much to lose. So I've been on a path of cleansing and just getting healthy and getting that mindset healthy and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that really helped towards going and getting on this journey. And basically, it came down to, we had one try at it. We had 2 chances. We had one try, 8 years of unexplained infertility, 8 eggs, 1 embryo, and it worked the first time, which is quite lucky. So that was our best Christmas ever, finding out that we were pregnant. So we're due in August and having a little boy. So yeah, it's all just come into alignment, really.
Oh, I love that you actually associate it too with your journey of personal development, because I'm somebody who is so passionate about, I love talking about mental health, and I see how it's such a big thing in today's society. And like when we don't work on things ourselves, we can tell ourselves certain things, but our body's going to respond in such a different way. So like, where was that first pivot point, and what part of personal development did you enter into? Was it the Tony Robbins events, or was it just starting with reading or podcasts, or did someone mention it to you? I'm really curious.
It actually started with an organization called Landmark a few years back. I'm not sure if you've heard of Landmark, but I think Tony Robbins used to do Landmark back in the day.
Okay. Yep.
And the reason I went, so a friend of mine actually invited me along, and she said, I've got this event, and I'd had 3 separate conversations in the space of a month, and they were all around Landmark. And I thought, and she says to me, I've got this event, I think it would really help. It would help you to get your body relaxed, and if your body can relax, then maybe you'll be able to fall pregnant. And I thought, whatever this is, I need to go and check it out. And I went along, and it kind of started from there. So I did Landmark for about a year, and just completely immersed myself. And then from there ended up doing Tony Robbins, UPW, and then I've done a few of his events since, but definitely. And then from Tony Robbins, I met my coach, and that's where the real work started with working on the getting rid of the blockages around getting pregnant. And being able to manifest a baby and manifest the IVF working and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So for people listening or watching this, I love it when it's coming from people who have themselves not always been that way, because I think sometimes people think, oh, visualization or meditation, yes, so what? But once we start doing these things, there's like proven studies of when we visualize or meditate, whether it's opening up the energy channels, if you know where to focus your energy, or feeling a baby inside of you, or visualizing what the baby's going to look like and what kind of gender it will be. And our bodies are so amazing that, like, if we do that on such a consistent basis, we can receive like so many more benefits than doing nothing or having a negative mindset. So there's been studies done on people doing like muscle mass testing and like weightlifting, and it showed like in a short period of time, the people who actually lifted the weights like increased in 50% muscle mass. People who visualized and meditated on it actually produced like 15 to 30% of the muscles like being developed, and people who did nothing didn't get any growth. So like I'm such a huge believer in stuff like this, and I think it's not until you have your own reason to need to do this, like you really wanting that baby or you needing to move away from that pain or towards the pleasure, that people start to step into their own growth. So I take my hat off to you, girl. And it must have just like your husband would have just been over the moon as well, because it would have felt so strange. I'm not sure if you've heard of like Jenna Kutcher and everything like that, because she had her own. You should look her up, because I feel like just feel like there's going to be some sort of similar connection there. But yeah, she essentially had like her own fertility journey as well, and I think it's such an incredible background that you come from, to be able to guide other women, not through just stressed out teacher backgrounds, but in motherhood. And like how are you finding your pregnancy so far?
Do you know, I have to say it has actually been really good. I can't really complain. I had morning sickness for like one day, and I've had a little bit of indigestion. Bubs is kicking up a storm in there. Even as we're talking now, I can feel him kicking around in there. I've actually had it really good, and I know a lot of people out there haven't, and I can only imagine, like I don't ever pretend to know what others are going through, and like even with the fertility struggle, like I know a lot of people out there that have gone through similar stuff. And I guess one of the biggest things that I'd say to people out there is, don't ever pretend that you know what somebody else is going through. So I often go on the IVF support group pages, and I'll get tagged in posts when people are asking about day 3 transfers and miracle stories and that sort of stuff. And I just share with them, and I might private message them afterwards, and I'll just say, this is your journey. You feel how you want to feel. If you want to cry, cry. If you want to be angry, be angry. Like, do what you need to do, because this is your journey, and don't let anybody else take that away from you. So I'm a big advocate for that as well. But I definitely feel like that there's that saying that Tony Robbins talks about, what if life was happening for you, not to you? And it took a long time for that to sink in, but I definitely feel like there's a bigger reason why it's taken so long for us to have this baby, and for us to be at this point, and to be able to support and share with others as well.
Definitely. I've always felt that, things are happening for us, and, to be grateful for what you have. But then as well, when you're in a time of when you're really wanting something, or it's causing a lot of stress, sometimes those words, like you said, they don't reach you in the right way until that moment, like of hindsight or something like that, where it's like, oh, I completely, I get it. And it really is just such a magical gift to get there. So it's like you said, it's remembering that people are at various stages along the way of where they are. So like when you're coming in, it's not being judgmental, and it's trying to give off your non-judgmental approach, so that they can actually not judge themselves, because we're so conditioned, right, to just like compare ourselves or go, oh, like, why am I not there? Or why am I not this yet? And it's like, that's because it's your story and it's your path to go on. And maybe, like your mess is your message, and everything that you're going through now is exactly what you're meant to teach. So I'm sure that that's probably something that came through for you once you were able to step into the, like, looking back and going, wow, this whole time this has been a gift, while for 8 years maybe you were resisting it or battling it.
Oh yeah, I can definitely say I was doing that.
Yeah
I liked what you just said, your mess is your message. I can't say I've heard that quote before.
Yeah, so one of my teachers, Dean, who's on like a lot of the Tony Robbins stuff, he often says that, and I think it's just such a beautiful simple way of explaining it, because what you think is like all gross and almost it can feel like a lot of shame or guilt in that area, or just frustration or anxiety or whatever emotion or meaning that you've attached to it. It's like, what if that was your superpower? What if they were the people that, you know, you could draw in to go, like, you don't have to do this alone, and you don't have to do it alone like I might have done or thought I had to do. So I see that as being something that you do for your mama clients. I'm assuming that you just have a lot, like all of your clients are female, but I'd be curious to know whether you draw in any of like the male side of stuff, the masculine energy.
Yeah, so I've had one male client, and then I have worked with three. So I'm really new to the coaching realm. So I've got three clients that two of them have been mums, but like I said in my bio, there's been like health, relationships, money, mindset, and goal setting and career. Those are the five main areas that they've come to me. And funnily enough, none of them are stressed out teachers.
Yes,
They're all
of
teachers
course.
in their own right, in their own roles, in their own jobs as well.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting.
Oh, that's what I wanted to ask you, is that when you, so for a while, actually, how long did you find yourself in the process of like the visualization or clearing the blockages, and then you got pregnant? I would love to know how long that took, that process, but then also if you continued that like practice moving forward, or whether you've just kind of moved on to other things that are important now, or whether you have like, a daily meditation or visualization practice.
So I guess I'm just trying to think back. It must have been maybe around March of last year. So I did a lot of like timeline therapy with one of my coaches, and visualization. And I'm just trying to think, Maria Pierce, I think her name is. She was some of her YouTube clips. Marissa Pierce, sorry. I'll text that through as well. But
Yeah.
she had some really good visualizations for getting pregnant, and it was really in depth. So I did a lot of her stuff. And then I actually did a vision board to get pregnant, and one of the things that I found was to actually get really, really specific.
Yeah.
So like, for example, there was like the pregnant belly, there was like a newborn baby with a dad. We've got a ginger cat, so there was like a newborn baby with a ginger cat. There was
Yes.
like, all I want for Christmas is two pink lines. And so that was up like every day so that I could see that. After getting pregnant, it was just, I haven't kept up with practices, but I do like often do different meditations, but I do it more intuitively now as opposed to a daily practice. Yeah.
I love it. How amazing is just the feeling of like certainty that you would have had when you're putting together the vision board as well, of like getting certainty so grounded within your body that it was going to happen, and then just seeing it unfold behind, like before you. It's just like, yeah, people talk of
Yeah.
miracles, but they literally can happen if you get in your mind. Like, you create your reality in your mind, and I'm sure that, yeah, we speak the same language there. So that just,
It's funny you should say that, because there was my group that I was part of, my mastermind group that I was part of at the time. One of the coaches, Dan, he actually said to me, he was like, "No, it's going to happen. No, it is what it is. She's going to be pregnant. That's just it. There's no other way." And actually, in that, I had people come to me and they'd be like, "Oh, it's IVF, you've got to be realistic." And I'd actually say to them, actually, no, you can park that negativity over there. I know you mean well, but
yeah,
actually I don't want to hear that. Whether they thought I was being naive or whatever, I was like, I'm not having that energy in the space. And yeah, pushed all that to one side. And if it didn't work out, then we'd deal with it. But it did, and we're here now. So it's exciting. It's exciting times.
it is. It's so People are so funny. It reminds me of the Asian proverb of like, it's this little story about, where people onlooking, they're just always looking at what other people are doing, and they go, oh, like, you're so lucky for this. And there's this old Asian farmer, and he's like, well, maybe. And then other events keep happening, and then they go, oh, poor you, I'm so sorry this happened. He's like, well, maybe. And then something else happens in a situation, like, oh, well, you're so lucky because of this. And it's like this constant battle between, you're so lucky and I'm so jealous of your life, to, oh, thank God I'm not having your life. But then they come back in when you're doing well, and it's like, oh, I always knew you were going to get pregnant, Jules. And it's like, no, like, sorry, I knew I was going to get pregnant. And you can, but yeah, it's not like having the ego drawn into it, but I just find people genuinely quite funny, because like I feel like I can step back and laugh at it, or take it a little bit less seriously when you can understand other people's ways of communicating or trying to connect with you. And it's like, but like what I love that you said is like, you had to draw that almost that emotional tie or that boundary with certain people that might have even been really close to you at the time as well, of like, I actually can't deal with anything negative, because it's going to create more blockages, which is the whole reason that you weren't getting pregnant. And
yeah
there's
a lot of like, you just mentioned boundaries, and boundaries has definitely come up, because I guess throughout this whole process, whether you're on a personal development journey, whether you're on this, like whether I've been on this IVF journey or whatever it's been, like you definitely, and I guess you found it too, as you would have people come in and out of your life, or as you grow, people break away. And it's not to say that it's a bad thing, but it's just, definitely boundaries and people falling away from friendship circles and that sort of stuff. That's definitely been big over the last few years as well.
Yeah. Are you someone who has like struggled with boundaries in terms of like when you have like that mama kind of energy? I know that it's very easy to want to help everyone around you, and even being a school teacher, it's everyone almost at the expense of yourself. And if you could just touch on that, I'd love to hear.
Yeah. So for years, I stayed in jobs too long because I stayed for the wrong reason. I stayed for the kids and not for myself and my mental health stuff because of it. And a few years before I got on my health journey a few years ago, I decided to finally leave my teaching job, like the permanent side of it, and go relief teaching. And that was massive, because that took 2 years from me actually saying it to actually doing it. I found myself again, because I was ready to leave the career that I loved and I didn't have a backup plan. And I had to do it for myself. And then also with that, around family and friends and toxic relationships and that sort of thing, like boundaries has definitely come about. But especially the last, I'd say, 18 months to 2 years, there's like, can I swear on here?
Definitely. When I read that in your bio, I was like, she's my kind of girl.
I've definitely now, more so lately, got a no fucks given, like kind of, I guess, like when it comes to my own mental health, when it comes to the health of me and my baby and my complete family unit at the moment, like anything else that's not in that, off you go.
Ouch.
And I guess as a mum, and I've had it for ages, I think it's that mama bear, I guess, coming out. And if you come for my family or you come for me, then watch out, kind of thing. Like, not in a bad way, but just in a protective kind of way. You're just protecting yourself and your own mental health and well-being and stuff like that.
And isn't it amazing, like with everything that we've learnt in the personal development that we've done, whether we've done similar stuff or not, when you're serving something bigger than yourself, how much you put into that. Like as soon as, that energy's come in, that you're protecting a little one that's like growing in your belly, like how that just switches on, of like it's an absolute non-negotiable for some things, whereas when it's just yourself, a lot of people I know can step into feeling like, oh, well, it's selfish, or I don't deserve this time to do this, or I shouldn't say no, or I just keep pottering on. But when it's serving a bigger picture, it's like, well, it's so much easier than to step out of ourselves, isn't it?
Definitely. Like, definitely earlier on in the teaching career, I was always the yes, yes, yes person. Like, I was always putting my hand up for everything. And that's where I got burnt out. And I guess going through the personal development, you recognize the triggers and the things that you used, or the patterns that used to happen, and now it's okay to say no, and now it's actually not selfish, it's actually, and you hear it from people, but you have to get to that point yourself. That's definitely what I
Yes,
found. Yeah.
totally. And I love that, because I think it's, yeah, we can so easily want people to be exactly where we are. And, you know, once you've moved through it, you understand why the people that might have been saying it to you before and you didn't get it were saying it because of how it feels to really move through that. But also just remembering that everybody, they're just so at their own pace. And it's like, yes, you can be that person who can guide them to the next spot and really lift them up or break them out of their comfort zone, but to also remember to be kind and gentle in the process, because often people don't even know their own shit that's going on inside. Like you, like, you know, when you're talking about, you didn't even know that there was problems that was going on inside your own body, like you, like a fit, like female, and you know your partner, I'm sure it's like nothing seems like it's actually wrong, but
Yeah.
when there's all of this conditioning from when we've been little, or things that we've gone through, our bodies hold so much emotion from past stories, past relationships, and yeah, it's huge.
Like, I got told a lot that I had blockages, but whenever I had tests and stuff, there was actually no physical blockages. And it wasn't until I started doing this work that I realized that there was emotional blockages. So it was like, as you said, the stories that you tell yourself. Like, I remember a time when I was 16 and my mum said to me, oh, you know, if you got pregnant tomorrow, I'd know you make a good mum. And I'd be like, why are you putting that on me? And so that was an emotional blockage. Or throwaway comments because you've had a hard day at work working with the kids, and things like, why would I ever want to have children? And that was another emotional blockage. And there was all of these things, layer upon layer upon layer. And it wasn't until I started to like do the work and the timeline therapy and a whole bunch of other stuff that I could actually you know, unravel all of that and decondition, I guess, a lot of those stories, and a lot of those things that were placed upon you that a lot of times is unconscious as well.
Absolutely. It's pretty amazing how deep it runs, isn't it? Like it, you know, when you uncover stuff, and when you're sitting there or doing the work, like you said, you start clearing back. It's like if you were to wipe a mirror and you get that first layer off, and then you're like, oh wait, like there's actually grosser bits, or like bits that are stuck on the mirror now, and I've really got to get that off. And once you get that, yes, exactly.
I literally just wiped off my whiteboard before we jumped on our call.
And then it's like, you know, even on the whiteboard, you wipe it down clean, and then there's like some little bits that are still like stuck on there, and it's not until
Yeah.
you wipe off that first layer that you can actually see even those tiny little bits that I don't want to call them imperfections, they're just parts of the story, really. And it's why it's so important to continue to do the work, because you get stronger in your ability to like use the skills that, you know, you're learning. And it's like, oh, okay, like light bulb moment, I get that, like that was the right time for this. But you know, then there's times where stories come up and you're like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like the
Yeah.
words that you were saying to yourself, it seems so innocent. But a lot of the posts that I've been doing this week has been around the power of language and communication. And it's not just the verbal words that we speak, but it's like our mental patterns as well. And
Oh,
if you're
definitely.
like, it's just huge, like, because I think that most diseases start in the mind, and it's like,
Oh, definitely.
yeah, Like I'm
There's
sure you're the same.
Yeah, it definitely has made me show up differently as a teacher as well. Like I notice more so in the last couple of years the type of language that I use with the children and the type of, how I show up for them and that sort of stuff. And I remember, I think it was like l- the week before last when the supermoon happened, like I
Mm.
was not, like everything was happening and I was just losing my shit and crying at work in the office, and I just knew that I had to get out of there. And I'm so thankful that I've got a really good team, and they just pulled it together and they said, you go, you do what you need to do. And I literally just had to walk out, go practice my meditation, go sit down the beach and
Mm.
just do the things that I'd been not doing and not focusing on that I needed to do. And I think sometimes we push that to one side as well, or or again, the stories you tell yourself, no, 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 I've just got to meet this deadline or whatever. And I knew that it wasn't serving me, but I was resisting it and I just literally lost it and had to just get out of there. So it was really cool that I was able to do that, and then just get myself right again and then be able to show up for work the next day and be myself again.
That's so remarkable to be that vulnerable. And like,
Mm.
whereas, it can be so easy to step into the masculine energy there and just be like, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And then, lead to burnout or
Yep.
not feeling happy. And it's like this up and down swing of life that doesn't feel enjoyable. And it's like, oh, we're here again and here again. And every month or 2 weeks, it just happens. And it was a really full moon, by the way. It was a really
Oh,
intense kind of
oh, it
energy.
was.
Everyone was so many things were happening. And yeah, call me the weird moon lady, but it feels like actually everybody that I spoke to that whole week, crap was just hitting the fan and the walls for
Yeah.
so many people.
I
um
don't know much about the moon cycles, but one thing I did hear is that there was like a breakdown of communication, and that's exactly what was going on with work stuff at that time. But it was quite interesting to get snippets of that, and then for it to all sort of make sense and go, okay, it's not just me. I'm not just losing the plot. It is something bigger.
Oh, I'll have to share with you some of the moon stuff, because I structure a lot of my business work around the moon, like in terms of when it's
Yes.
best to talk to people or have these kinds of interviews, or when it's best to do like your finances or your blogging and all of
Oh
that.
my God,
Because
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's so awesome. Um,
I'll be down.
yeah, you'd love it. And I
Yeah,
feel like it works really well for women because it also goes with like the hormonal cycles too.
yeah.
And it's just, for me, it makes a lot of sense. For some people, it might just be like, but it's something that I've been doing for years, and only more so, like more dedicated this year. I've come across a lot of incredible teachers that are like, oh, like this isn't just made up stuff. Like I feel it. Like I feel myself change throughout the month. I feel when it would be like the most appropriate time to be doing certain things for business. Like there's not always times that I feel energetic to talk to people, and to realize that that is okay. But when you're working for somebody else, like in education or any other job, you kind of feel like you're required to put on a face, or it doesn't seem okay if you've got your period to go, look, I'm scheduling 3 days of no rest, no technology. And it's like, well, sometimes that's just not acceptable for the work that you do. But I guess that's why it's awesome when you become your own boss, and you get to make your schedule. And that's why I just like get so pumped about this, because you don't only get to make your own schedule, but you get to guide others to do the same, to set themselves up to, I guess, understand themselves so that they can help other people. Because yeah, that's been a huge thing for me. And I think when we get clear on that, it's much easier to like listen or want to hear other people's stories as well.
I think also in the coaching realm, one thing I found along those lines as well is like if you know that you're not going to be present or you're not feeling it or whatever, it's actually like being able to be open and transparent with the people that you're working with, and to be able to say, hey, look, can we reschedule?
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. And same for them, as if it's not working for them, like that's where the flexibility comes in too, which is amazing. That's what I love about this part of the role is the intuitiveness side of things
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. So like I know you've mentioned that you've got coaches that's been really in the last year or so, year to 18 months. And that seems to be a real guider of where you're going with your coaching stuff. But I'd love to know your other role models or teachers along the way that are people that you still look to for guidance, or that, you know, at some point in your life, they were a huge part of the journey that you're on now.
Yeah, so definitely Tony Robbins in there, and Fraser Brooks. I know I've heard you
Yeah.
talk about him too. So definitely in the network marketing space, because I part of before coaching and things, definitely dabble in the network marketing space as well.
Amazing.
I'm just trying to think. There's so many. I've got so many books on the go. There's a lady called Peter Kelly who I listened to a lot of her stuff, and she's got a book called Earth is Hiring, which I can send you the links
Ooh.
to those as well. I'd reckon that you'd be really into her stuff. Who else? Rebecca Campbell, and she did Light is the New Black and Rise Sister Rise. And I read those after Peter Kelly, and they just spoke to me, those two books, and I ended up with the oracle card decks.
Oh, yes. Can we
Yeah.
pick one?
Yeah, which one?
The right, your left hand. Oh, they're both so pretty. But I
Work
was
the
drawn
Light.
to that one. Yeah, Work Your Light.
That one?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm only really new to the cards. My mum's really into tarot and oracle cards, but I
Yes.
guess like anything, it's just intuitive.
Yeah.
And but yeah, definitely Rebecca Campbell.
I've heard that
Uh,
name a lot of times. I feel like I know her, but I've written it down. I'll include it in the show notes as well, because it's
yeah,
always nice to have resources for people to draw upon.
definitely. Yeah, as soon as I read her book, and then I just cried. Like I read that book in 3 days, and I just felt like it spoke to my soul, and that I actually that everything that I had been working towards, um or had been told, I guess, like growing up, mum was really spiritual and she was really into readings and the spiritual world, whereas we grew up Catholic, and that was always said to us that that was like not like that was the devil's work, or that, and we never really got to experience that. And it's only in the last couple of years being surrounded by people that are into all of that, and I guess it opened your eyes up to it, that I've actually sort of embraced it a bit more as well,
Yeah.
and being a bit more guided through it or by it, whatever you want to call it. Yeah,
I
for
love
sure.
it.
I've got three piles, the left, middle, and right. Which one?
I'm thinking the middle to represent the present.
Okay, cool. I'll pop that on top, and then I'll spread the cards. This is how I normally do it. I don't know if it's the right way, or
I
I just
love
go
that
with,
everyone has their own way. Like I do it differently all the time. So I
yeah.
always am just like, yes, do it how you want.
I've sort of spread it. I'll see if you can see.
Oh,
Yeah.
can we go the 13th card along? Can you count the
From the
13th
left or the right?
from your left?
Okay.
It's my favorite number.
Deep replenishment, retreat, rest, and be held.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So that is awesome, because we're coming up to the new moon on Friday, and that is a time of like rest. And this is where when we're talking about business and the hormone cycles and everything, even though you're pregnant and you're not getting your cycle, the body still like can be in tune with what is happening with nature. So it's like it's coming to that time of darkness in the sky, which is actually a really really great time to rest and restore yourself. So it's like not a great time to be booking a lot of business stuff. It's not a great time to be doing a lot of like outward energy. It's like actually just go inward, have baths, use your oils if you have like essential oils or anything, and just take that time to be a little bit more reflective or even a bit more creative. So I know that I tend to get very creative in writing around that time. So just observe yourself like over the weekend and see what your energy's like. Like it's been quite a peak of energy lately, but then it can just drop off immediately to go like, oh, like I just feel like I cannot people or life at the moment. So just notice yourself and how you feel this week. I'd be curious.
I'll give you an update. I'm looking at the calendar up on the wall going, I've got nothing planned for next weekend, so I think I'll just leave it at that.
Perfect.
Did you want me to read the card or shall I just send it to you?
Yeah, read it out. Stuff it.
Okay, cool. It says, deep replenishment, retreat, rest, be held. The most selfless thing that you can do is fill up your own inner well. When we are running around half filled, we subconsciously look to things and people around us to give us the nourishment and nurturing that we so deeply crave. Nothing can grow in barren lands. You are no good to anyone if you are running on empty. The feminine is bountiful, fertile, and rich. Tend to your own well and watch as the amount you have to give multiplies. If your inner well isn't full, you will find yourself craving from things from the outside world to fill it. This is our body's instinctive way of reaching for the grounding and nurturing that we are not allowing ourselves. What nourishes you? What refuels your body? What is a nectar for your soul? What brings you back to life? What is your secret medicine? What makes you feel abundant and fertile, overspilling with life? It may be gardening, arranging flowers, getting a massage, using luxurious essential oils, snuggling up on the couch, hiking, sipping a good coffee at your favorite cafe, attending a women's circle, reading about sacred sites, spontaneous bike rides, walking along the beach, or yin yoga. What nourishes you is your medicine. When you give yourself the medicine that you need to be nourished, you nourish all those around you, for there is more than enough to go around. Do something that replenishes you today.
That is awesome. Yeah. That's definitely like, oh, I love that. You feel like a soul sister. That's what my sister and I do with like animal cards or the oracle cards. And it's fun when you do it like randomly too, of like, it can be something that you do every day, but it's nice when you like feel into it or it just comes up in conversation like that of like, oh, like I actually really needed that today. I needed to hear that. And I just really appreciate that, Jules. It's it's like being given permission to rest or to just chill, because I know that you know, when you're working in general, even if it's pardon me, with your own business or any other job, it can be, you know, so easy to just keep going and then come home and do the cooking and be doing, and it's like actually just you're not gonna like miss out on anything if you have a cup of tea and put your feet up for 10 minutes. Life will go on, the sun will rise and fall, and like you'll get what you need to done in the end, even if it's a little bit later than you might have planned. But I always know I feel so much better when I just take a pocket to sit, breathe, and just chill for a second.
My workmates are good at that. They're good at reminding me to do that, because at work I'm the go person. But now I'm making the most of when they tell me to chill. I go and take 5 and go have that cup of tea and put my feet up.
Good girl. Now, with the plan for your pardon me, your business moving forward, is that going to be, are you going to be transitioning from working as a school teacher to like having your baby and then just doing your coaching moving forward from that? Or do you feel like it's going to be back into the schoolwork?
So the ultimate goal that I have at the moment is I've given myself, so I'm leaving work at the end of July. I'll still be doing coaching while I'm on maternity leave with a couple of clients, and just doing a lot of like intuitiveness around planning and seeing where I need to bring that up. But obviously embracing being a mama and just feeling into it. But the ultimate goal is I go back and I think it's March next year to work for about a year, but by the end of that year when I go back to work, the plan is to be coaching full time so that I can be a stay-at-home mom and have that flexibility.
Yeah.
But initially have to go back to work for a short while, but eventually transition out into coaching and doing other things as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. What
But
is
that's
like,
I've rounded off about 20 years of teaching by the time I go back.
wow.
Yeah.
But I feel
So
like teaching is such a role, like you said, you don't have to just be in a school setting. It's like teaching is, you'll be teaching as a mum, you'll be teaching
yeah,
for the rest of your life. And it's like that is
yeah,
such a cool thing to embrace that and go, it doesn't matter where you are or who you're with. It's like you'll be teaching regardless. And I think,
definitely.
yeah, that's cool.
I think there was a huge transition too, is to get that mindset shift that like one thing I learned early on in the teaching career was that you never ever ever stop learning, and that's always
Yeah,
been embedded. But teaching doesn't have to look like it does in the traditional sense. Yeah,
definitely.
for sure.
Jules, just to wrap it up,
Yeah.
you've answered a lot of like, you know, who your role models and teachers are, and even like the resource side of stuff. But what is like your where would people find you on a day off if like money wasn't an issue, location wasn't, you know, didn't matter how you got there, like what would you be doing and where would you be and why?
For me, I guess this question's been asked so many times, but for me, it would be playing with the kids. It would be going to a yoga class. It would be like walks along the beach, um, that sort of thing. So just really chilled out, no expectation. Just, I guess the other thing is just being able to get in the car and drive somewhere, and just because I can, and just packing the family up and going on a holiday.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
going to be the three of you very soon, girl.
Definitely.
That's so
Definitely.
cool. Oh,
Yeah.
it's been so awesome actually getting to chat to you. And I, like my family and I, well, my sister, her partner and my partner, we're all coming to New Zealand on Friday for a week. So I think it's just crazy because for some reason when we connected, I thought that you lived in Western Australia, and it's just like, oh, like this is what I love about being able to use technology to connect with people from all parts of the world. So I super
Definitely.
appreciate your time and energy for just showing up here to share your story, to add value to others. And yeah, I've certainly loved getting to see your face and not just hear your voice. So I feel like
Yeah.
I have even now like a deeper connection. I'm like, oh, like I want to know more. And we will probably have to do another episode to just touch base maybe after Bob, if that's a good
Yeah.
time or fit for you.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I'm just a huge advocate too of when I get people on here, if they've been telling me that they've got things that they want to do, I want to hold them accountable to that as well. So even if it's like a year later, it's like, tell me about that. Tell me how life's going now and checking in, you
Yeah.
know?
Definitely. For sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting that I've got 2 Tony Robbins events coming up, but because they're virtual, I have one with a 3-week-old or 2.5-week-old, and one with a 3-month-old by that stage. So I'm doing Life Mastery in September, and Date with Destiny in December. So that's going to be interesting.
Wow. Is that what,
Yeah.
when you send a voice message and you would ask them if you could do it at a later date or something?
Yeah, I did. And that's in person, but because I will be going back to work around that time, of some of the dates that they had available, and I'd have to fly to Fiji, I thought, no, I'll just stick to the virtual at this stage.
Yep.
And then just go with it, with the time difference and with Bubs. And yeah, if you really want it, you'll make it happen.
I feel like that's the mic drop. I was going to say, do you have any closing words? But I feel like that is it. Like, if you do, you will. Where there's a will, there's a way, as they say. And I love that. Where can people actually reach out to you? Because I connected with you on Facebook, and I'll include this in the show notes for our viewers and listeners. But if you just let them know where it's best, if they want to access you just to chat, but also for your coaching services as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I can text you my email address, and also Instagram, Jules NZ with a capital N, capital Z 87, and just on Facebook, Julia de Jong.
Perfect. Yay! This has been awesome, beautiful soul, and we will continue to stay in touch anyway. And this will be uploaded tomorrow at this stage, which is super exciting. Yeah. If there is anything else that you want to say, just go ahead, girly. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up and call it an episode, I reckon.
I think that's everything. I think we've covered quite a bit.
We have. So yeah, if you feel like your story has resonated with Jules, and you, whether it was in like the teaching or the stress or like not knowing where your next step is, and you kind of share that similar story with fertility even, or maybe it's fertility issues. Jules said earlier that she's got a private Facebook group as well that she'll be able to put you in touch with that if that's speaking to you at the moment, because there's no reason to be hiding in your room, not telling anybody, when there's somebody beautiful as Jules that, you know, can get back to you via message. And I'm sure that even if she's busy and doesn't get back right away, that she'll do her best to get you in there and get you all sorted. And if you can't for some reason find Jules's details, just message me and I can get in contact with her and organize that for you. So yeah, awesome. Yay. And yeah, listeners, let us know what you found most valuable. Let us know what you want to hear more of, because I will get Jules back on here at some point and we'll have another chat. So yay. Thank you, beauty. I've really appreciated chatting to you.
All good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So welcome.